Cleopatra is one of history's most famous queens and the last pharaoh of Egypt. She is known for her beauty and seduction, and in today's world she is often romanticized. However, besides her appearance and her love affair with Rome's most powerful men, there is a darker narrative that rarely anybody knows. Cleopatra is not just a good-looking woman that followed the orders of Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. In reality, she was a strict ruler, a calculating strategist, and a ruthless player in the cutthroat world of ancient politics. She ascended the Egypt throne in a time of huge turbulence, commanded armies, and made horrifying decisions that changed the fate of Egypt and even the entire ancient world forever. And it's these chapters of her life that is rarely talked about. Therefore, in this video, we will take a deep dive into the horrifying things Cleopatra did during her reign, not to destroy her image, but to reveal a more complete and realistic portrait of this iconic figure. We will uncover the shocking steps she took to secure her throne, the ruthless elimination of threats, and her perceptive manipulation. The story about her you learned in history class barely scratches the surface. And this is exactly what we are all about at Past Perspectives. We want to show you more than just the dates and facts. We want to show you the people behind them. So if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to our channel. At a time when Rome was rapidly gaining power and influence, Egypt was losing its influence in the world. And while it was still seen as the pinnacle of culture and knowledge, it was also a playground of power struggles. Cleopatra was born in 69 BC into the Ptolemaic dynasty, which was a lineage marked by treachery, murder, and political scheming. One side fact is that the Ptolemies had no Egyptian origin but a Macedonian Greek. However, they have ruled Egypt since Alexander the Great's general Ptolemy seized control of Egypt after Alexander's death. In the Ptolemaic line, it was the standard that the family would not mix their genes with outsiders, and therefore Cleopatra was married to her younger brother Ptolemy XIII when she was 18 and he was only 10 years old. Initially, they ruled together, but because of some political power plays, Cleopatra was removed by his brother's advisors and forced into exile. However, during that time, Cleopatra's determination was already built, and she was far from admitting defeat. After she recognized the immense power of Rome, and more importantly its political influence, she was looking to build an alliance with the most influential man of that time, Julius Caesar. In the legend, it is said that she rolled herself up on a carpet to be smuggled into Caesar's private quarters. This night marked the beginning of their affair, which later on would be the turning point for her. With Caesar's military support, she was able to conquer the throne, and she did not hesitate to eliminate her own brother in the process and all of his advisors that once kicked her off the throne. Now, the historical situation on this one is not 100% clear, as it is said that Ptolemy drowned in the Nile while he was attempting to flee. Others said that his dead corpse was simply thrown into the Nile, implying that his death wasn't accidental and that Cleopatra was responsible for it. But whether or not she killed her brother by herself, it's clear that her goal, to get on the throne, could only be reached by defeating and killing her own brother, so there would be no one else that had any rights to the throne, and she was the sole ruler of Egypt. And this episode was only the start of her relentless rule over Egypt. And she was not afraid to secure her position, even if it meant the demise of her own family. After Cleopatra secured her place on the throne, her reign was marked by a ruthless determination to further strengthen and maintain her power. One of the most shocking instances of her ruthlessness was her treatment of all the other siblings that could have been a threat to her rule. The first victim Cleopatra targeted was her younger sister Aresnoi IV. After the defeat of their brother Ptolemy, she attempted to claim the throne for herself, and she led an uprising against Cleopatra and Caesar during the Alexandrian War. Despite her efforts, the resistance was defeated, and Arsinoe was captured and exiled to the temple of Artemis Ephesus, where at first she considered herself to be safe, because of the Roman law against executing virgins. However, Cleopatra wasn't happy with that, and she perceived the sheer existence of her sister as a threat to her power, and that she needed to be eliminated. At that time, Cleopatra started a relationship with Mark Antony, but we are going to take about the manipulations in her relationships in detail later on. The reason why she started the relationship with Mark Antony was that after Caesar's death, she considered him one of Rome's most influential figures. However, for her, this was not a romantic affair, but a calculated move, as she later on convinced Mark Antony of the threat Arsinoe had. In 41 BC, despite being in the sanctuary on Roman soil, Arsinoe was executed on Antony's orders. And again, we can be sure that this was a move orchestrated by Cleopatra. Now Cleopatra only had one remaining sibling, Ptolemy XIV, who shared the same fate. In 47 BC, Cleopatra involuntarily made him the co-ruler, and today it's believed that this happened under Roman influence and their pressure. However, his reign was short-lived as he was dead in 44 BC, and rumors quickly spread that he had been poisoned by Cleopatra herself. She then elevated the son she had with Julius Caesar, Caesarion, to co-ruler. These cold-blooded actions reflect her commitment to maintaining her power at all costs, and her willingness to even eliminate her family members show her ruthless side to her rule and also paints a more stark contrast to the more romanticized portrayal of her in pop culture. However, these are not the most horrifying things she has done. After Julius Caesar has been assassinated in 44 BC, this marked a significant setback for Cleopatra. She had lost a powerful ally and her position was vulnerable. She knew that she had to do something to remain in control of her power. Therefore, she tried to assert the rights of her son Caesarion as Caesar's successor, but Rome wasn't ready to accept an Egyptian as ruler. This is when Cleopatra switched her affair to Mark Antony, who she believed was the next man with the potential to take control of Rome. And while Antony was captivated by Cleopatra and allied himself with her, this only made it harder for him to gain control of Rome, which later on led to a full-blown civil war. However, Cleopatra was not only ruthless to other rulers but also to her own people. She was known for implementing strict economic policies to maintain her kingdom's prosperity. She controlled the distribution of grain during famines, ensuring her popularity among the Egyptian people while creating a sense of dependency on her rule. Cleopatra also established a naval blockade during her war with her brother to show her strategy and willingness to even let people starve when necessary. To make sure she is the only one that can feed the country and everyone was dependent on her, she forced the expulsion of several influential and wealthy people during her reign. And if they didn't want to leave, they would seize their wealth and it would replenish into the national treasury to finance her own projects. Her manipulation even extended into the realm of religion as well. If we look at the way how Cleopatra portrays herself, we can see that she wanted to maintain power at all costs. She portrayed herself as a living goddess, a reincarnation of Isis, which further solidified her hold over her people. This way, she blended her political power and religious authority into one and made her an unchallengeable figure. Because if someone would have the audacity to challenge her rule, he would also be challenging the gods at the same time. However, if you are ruling a country the way Cleopatra did, you are not allowed to make mistakes, and if you do, it can end badly for you. Such was the case with Cleopatra. Her calculated political power plays weren't enough to prevent the downfall of her reign. In a battle for power in Rome, she decided to join a war against Octavian together with Mark Antony. However, in 31 BC, her final defeat came in the Battle of Actium. This loss was devastating for Cleopatra and marked the end of her political power and left her and Antony in a bad situation. Antony, believing that Cleopatra had betrayed him and that she had died, fell on his own sword. When Cleopatra heard of Antony's death, she was devastated. But even in her grief, she was aware of the precarious position she was in. Octavian had won, and he intended to parade Cleopatra through Rome as a symbol of his victory. Facing a life of humiliation and defeat, Cleopatra hatched a plan to avoid this fate. Although the details are shrouded in mystery and conflicting historical accounts, it's generally agreed upon that she died by suicide, possibly by a venomous asp's bite. Now, looking back at Cleopatra's life, it's easy to see why she's such a captivating figure in history, even besides her beauty and love life with Caesar. Her story is filled with intense power plays, clever manipulation, and some chilling actions. But as we've uncovered today, her reign wasn't all golden glory. From ruthlessly eliminating her rivals to implementing strict control measures, she did what she thought was necessary to hold on to her power. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to Past Perspectives and also make sure to check out our other videos as well. With that being said, thanks for watching and until next time.